Voices and audio sourced.
So please take your seat.
Ça serait pas mal d'avoir un petit écran ici où on voit sa propre présentation.
Ouais, mais je pense qu'ils ont prévu ça. So now we will reconvene and take the next item in the agenda, which is a presentation of the work program 2018-20. And it is my colleague Christophe Castex who will do the job. Christophe.
Hello, let's maybe first wait. Voilà. Voilà. What? Okay. Voilà. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you very much, Philippe, for the invitation. Thanks a lot as well to my colleague Charles, who did the presentation, which I'm going to present to you, but who unfortunately cannot be with us today. So I will focus on 4 points: the policy context, secure societies and figures, work program 18-20, and I will talk as well a bit about the focus area. Now, none of you has to take pictures of the slides. You will receive them afterwards. So the idea is as well that I will not read out the work program to you because you can all read, and I don't think that would be much of an added value for you. So the idea is more that I give you background information on why we do what we do, what is the policy background, and a bit lessons learned from the recent years and the recent evaluations. So one context which I would like to highlight is the policy context. As you might know, we have in DG Home 2 commissioners. We have Dimitri Avramopoulos in charge for everything related to migration, and Julian King, who is now our commissioner for 1.5 years roughly for security. Now, I would strongly invite you, and if you haven't done so already, to have a look at this mission letter, because every commissioner receives a mission letter from President Juncker himself, and within the mission letter of Julian King, there is explicitly mentioned that he should ensure that EU finance security research targets the needs of security practitioners and develop solutions to forthcoming security challenges. Now, I have to emphasize that this is the very first time for us that being in the Commission, we have such a strong role that we are so strongly recognized. This is one of the first points which is mentioned in this mission letter, and I can really say that we never before had a commissioner who was so aware of what we do in security research, and which has as well quite high expectations. So that's a challenge, but very much an opportunity for us as well, and that's something you should definitely keep in the back of your mind when you write proposals, when you try to contact consortium members. And another point to mention in this is the context in which we are in as a unit. Now, in previous times, under the second and the first Barroso cabinet, we were in DG Enterprise. With Juncker, we moved from DG Enterprise to DG Home, which means that our focus now is much more on the implementation and support of DG Home policy initiatives. We have stronger links to, obviously, the policy units. We have strong links to the agencies as well. So talking about Frontex, Europol, EU-LISA, the European Cybercrime Center, CEPOL, and so on. And that, again, is something I would like to emphasize. But because we try way stronger than we did before to involve the policy dimension. That's as well something which is now feasible, because being in the same DG, we have a way better contract to our colleagues there, and they don't consider us necessarily as a threat, since quite often within the Commission, to be completely honest about it, if another DG comes with a lot of money in the area where your policy competence lies, you might be a bit hesitant. That is much less the case now, so we have way stronger synergies there, and that's something I would like to emphasize for you. If you write proposals, if you're interested in getting active, you really should have a look at the work program, but very much in the policy context within it is placed. And in this context, I highlighted here as well the point that we have a lot of input from other DGs, mentioning here DG TaxFit, for instance, which is physically represented here tonight today as well, but many other DGs as well, like DG ECHO, like DG Sanke, like DG Energy, like DG Move. And in many of the topics, you will see that the policy background isn't necessarily only from DG Home, but as well from other DGs. So if you do write proposals, really have a good look. What kind of recent policy communications have been published in this area? What exactly are the large strategies? What are the big plans of the Commission in this area? That's really something I would like to emphasize, because if you want to have a strong impact, you should really look, what am I supposed to do? What is the end goal of all of this? Then, as well, just to emphasize that the others who contributed to the work program as such are, of course, the program committee, so your member state representatives, but as well the associated countries. And we organized several workshops. We did stakeholder consultations. There were targeted consultations as well. And we received a lot of feedback as well from the aforementioned agencies, such as Frontex, Europol, and so on and so on. Then a feature which we introduced in the 16-17 work program, and which will be maintained as well throughout the 18-20, is the mandatory involvement of practitioners. Now, we do this to enhance policy support and improve market uptake, increase the innovation dimension, reduce oversubscription, and reduce duplication. What do I mean concretely by this is that, for instance, for the security call this year, we will have a success rate of 18%. That's still not fantastic, but it's a massive increase compared to before. Before, we had roughly a success rate of 9 to 10%, whereas now, basically 1 in 5 can get financed, which means already we avoid a lot of frustration. By having the practitioners at the core of projects as well, we make sure that the product, which is the product developed, the solution developed within the product, is really targeted towards the needs of those who are supposed to be the buyers, which means that for you, well, depending on what your background is, that whatever time and energy and money you invest in a project, you have a much higher probability that this will lead to something concrete. This means as well, of course, that we have less proposals because there's not an indefinite number of practitioners, but it means as well that practitioners have a much stronger role now in the projects. They have told us quite often that now they're incredibly popular, and they receive tons of emails and requests and so on. And something I would like to emphasize in this context is that if you write a proposal, if you try to set up a consortium, don't start without the practitioners and then 2 weeks before the deadline try to add them so that it looks nice. That doesn't work. Huh? We have seen, I've moderated quite a few of the consensus over the last meetings of the last 2 years, and there's really, there's a very strong contrast between those who start with a project, put practitioners in the middle, in the beginning, give them important parts to do in the project, and those who add it at the end. It's very, very blatant. Evaluators are not stupid, they see it quite quickly, so please take this into account, because otherwise you might risk losing your time and wasting your energy. Then some rough figures. So the budget for secure societies in 14-20 was 1.7 billion. And something we sometimes assume everybody knows, but which is actually not necessarily that well known, is that we represent 50% of the overall public spending available in the European Union, which makes us a very, very peculiar case, actually, because on average, the framework program represents something like 8%. So there are only 7 member states, actually, with national security research programs. So really, our funding is quite essential, and that's really something as well you should emphasize. Maybe if you try to get motivation, if you get validation from your hierarchy, underlining how important we are as a vehicle. Basically, if you're not in our product, it's very, very likely that you will not be able to contact the community. And that's something, I mean, which Philippe has created here with all of you, is really to demonstrate how well our projects have helped people meet. And that's something that basically we created some sort of an internal market for security research. And that's something quite fundamental, which I think can be a very useful tool as well for you to make publicity for what you're doing in-house. Then I will very briefly now go a little bit on the structure as well. So we've kept largely the structure of the 16-17 work program. And by the way, all this is publicly available. If you go on the participant portal, there's a link at the end of my presentation, you will find all the information needed. There are very good frequently asked questions websites, and if need be, you have your national contact points, which will make a presentation right after me, which are your main contact point. There is really a very, very nice system in place. So if you have questions, of course, you can ask them after my presentation is finished to my deputy head of unit, because I have to run afterwards. So I basically throw the grenade in the room and run away. But voila, so the main points, the infra call, which was previously called critical infrastructure protection, is maintained. The security call with the structure, disaster resilient societies, fight against crime and terrorism, border security, and general matters will continue. And as well, the digital security part from our colleagues from DG Connect. Now, general principles, again, the obligatory participation of practitioners, that we need to be challenge-driven. And I think that's something which Andrea mentioned already earlier this morning. Something which is really the focus for us. We want to contribute to greater goals. We need really to achieve concrete results. Security research has been up and running now for roughly 10 years. We have roughly spent 2 billion euros in research projects. And the questions we keep getting, and rightfully so, is what exactly has come out of all this money? What kind of concrete technologies, what kind of concrete output can you show for the European citizen? What have you done with this money? And I think there we are probably more in the limelight than anybody else, because security is such a top priority, because people are so interested to know what exactly are you doing? What is the European Union doing to support me? And that's, again, coming to the challenge and opportunities part. That's certainly a challenge, but I think it's a great opportunity for all of us, because we can actually use the current spotlight position we have in to show the good we're doing and to justify as well the continuity of security research in FP9. Because the discussions on this are currently ongoing as well, and it's important for you to reflect, what could you be thinking we could be doing in FP9? What has worked, what didn't work, what could we do better? So all those points, I think it's really, we're in a very, very fascinating moment in time. And something to highlight that you will see in the work program, the year 2020 is relatively open. There is just a rough budgetary indication. On the topic level as such, we are not that prescriptive yet. We don't really know exactly. So that's as well an opportunity for you. If you have brilliant ideas or if you see areas where you think we could be investing, don't hesitate to contact your stakeholders to come back either directly to us or preferably even through your member states to your national contact points. We are not working in a silo approach there. We are very much aware that we need the input from the outside world. So, voila, then I will fly a little bit over the next slides because, again, the idea is not necessarily to go point by point through all the topics. Something I would just like to highlight before I go over those slides is that we currently in DG Home publish once a month those progress reports on the Security Union. And I would strongly encourage you to have a look at all of them. I think we have now 10 of them. Normally, there's one per month. There has been a month where we published 2, and then there was none the next month, and so on. But all of them target specific areas. There has been one on radicalization, there has been one on cybercrime, and so on. And in many of the topics, you will see that there's an indirect reference to these Security Union reports. And whatever area you want to be active, have a look at this. Have a look, what are the priorities of DG Home? What are our large strategies for the next years to come? And try to inspire yourself from that, and try to link up with that. Because that's what the evaluators will be using as well as a benchmark. So really, try not to do research for l'art pour l'art, but really try to see what kind of concrete output can I achieve. And that will be a definitely efficient way to write a good proposal as well. And in this context, the second topic here, sorry, I thought I clicked, but I didn't click actually, sorry. The topic number 2, so the security for smart cities, including public spaces. The 18th of October, so roughly a month ago, the DG Home published a communication which includes a public spaces action plan and an action plan on CBRN. And there, specifically for the public spaces, I would really strongly encourage you, have a look how this could be relevant for you, how you could inspire yourself for topics. It's not yet for the 2018 work program, but that's really something as a concrete example where there's a recent policy communication, there's a list of tasks basically that DG Home promised to accomplish, and I'm just looking at my watch. Well, that just to give you an example. Then on the DRS call, something I would like to highlight here, because that's a pattern throughout the work program, you will see in some of the topics that we have every year a specific topic. So for instance, in here, under the technologies topic, you have a subtopic on victim detection technologies in 18, then in 19 you have one on rapid pathogens, and in 2020 on pre-hospital life support and triage. But every year you as well have an open topic. So the eligibility criteria for those 2 topics are different. For the specific ones, it's 3 practitioners. For the open ones, it's 5. But basically, the open topic is a great opportunity for you. If you think you have a brilliant idea on something that we should be financing, which isn't there, it's entirely up for grabs. You can come up with anything creative, basically, as long as it makes sense, and you have a high number of practitioners. Since it's something where we leave you the creativity, we want to be sure that there's a strong support. That's why you have a higher threshold when it comes to practitioner participation. But really, that's something you could definitely have a look. It can be quite creative, and it allows us as well to be flexible. Because evidently, security research tends to be a bit reactive. As soon as there is a new terrorist attack with a new tool, we are tasked, you need to do something on this, even though it's a bit counterproductive, because we all know that we are not going to solve tomorrow's problems with research. But still, it allows us as well to be more flexible. So if you see something new emerging, where you think, only in 3 years' time could I come up with a topic, a proposal on this, this is your chance. Then, next slide. Here we come again to the DRS call. You will see that we have topics on, wait a second. Voila. So we have a topic here on pre-normative research, and the topic number 4, which is the CBRN cluster, which is a continuation of 16 and 17. And you can all have a good look at Clive over there in the corner if you have follow-up questions. So that again, you will see there is a strong element of continuity between what we're doing in the 16-17 up to the 2020. Whatever worked well in 16-17, we try to replicate, we try to continue working in this direction, and definitely we need all of you to contribute in this context, because whatever we think could be a good idea will only work if you actually do the projects that go along. Then coming to the, voila. Coming to the FCT call, there again you will see we have on human factors and technologies, specific topics and open subtopics. So in each area, we always try to address certain specific policy goals, but again, leave you the possibility to come up with your own creative ideas. So don't hesitate to use these possibilities. for us, it's a bit of a test bed. It's the first time we do something like this. It's the first time we have these open topics. So for us, it will be very important to see as well if this works, because if it doesn't, we will probably kill the idea. Because we will have some flexibility throughout the years 18 to 20, not necessarily to add many new topics or to delete some, but aspects such as deleting or modifying a subtopic or coming up with some new ideas, that's perfectly feasible. Knowing anyway that for 2020, everything is up for grabs. Again, we can, because you will see there are just some very, very basic informations there. So this is really an opportunity for you. If you think that this is valid, don't hesitate, use the first opportunities, because the next year will already be a very important testbed exercise for us. Then, voila. Here again, you come to further topics. I'm not going to go into detail on this because as I said before, you will find policy documents on all these points. I mean, aspects such as data management are currently a very sexy topic, if one might say so. We talk a lot about better use of data or data fusion, but again, there just have a look at the topic descriptions. They're relatively exhaustive. And the point on explosives, there you will see that we have quite a lot of projects ongoing, and something which is quite relevant in this context that next year DG Home will publish an action plan. Now it will revise the regulation on precursors for explosives. So there again, in all areas where you want to get active, have a very good look at what DG Home is publishing. Our colleagues in the policy DGs currently are bringing out communications and new regulations and directives at an alarming rate. There's a lot coming out. We have a lot of pressure, but it means for you as well, there's a lot of potential to pick up things. And whatever you do, I would really strongly encourage you, because if you refer yourself to a communication that's 2 years old, it might already be out of date, and it might be that whatever you're proposing is not addressing the current challenge anymore. Then coming to the border and external security call, here you will see again the specific topics with subtopics in each year. Not going too much into detail because I have a relatively short time slot anyway. And for the third topic as well, for the demonstration of applied solutions, you see as well that we have a specific and an open topic. Then something which we tried in 16, 17, and which will continue in 1820 are the general matters on the practitioner networks. You will see that there in 18, 19, and 18 and 19 we have different areas which are being targeted. And this year we launched 5 of such networks. Next year, stemming from the core which is currently being evaluated, we should launch a roughly equivalent number of proposals. So there, have a look as well what exists. I mean, quite a few of the people here in this room are involved in those. Have a good look what's already existing there, how this could be an inspiration for you, how you could pick up on this. I think the added value and what we expect from this networks has been discussed quite thoroughly, and since I only have 2 minutes remaining, I will not go too much into detail on this, but again, have a look at what's already existing, have a look at the project websites. Those existing projects are now cooperating together as well. They've established a platform for exchange, so if you have further questions on this, don't hesitate to contact us. Don't hesitate to use the magic of Google and type in the project names. It's quite easily findable, and otherwise in this room you have plenty of people who would be delighted to be networking with you on this. Then something which is really a novelty which I would like to highlight is what we try to do in PCPs, so pre-commercial procurement in the years 18 to 20. There are 2 topics on this. One, which is open in 18 and 20, which are basically CSAs. So we try to make feasibility studies. So we try to launch people reflecting of the idea what kind of PCPs could you be launching in respective areas. And the second topic, which is fully fledged PCPs, where the idea is to make them completely open. So whatever area, what kind of technology, what kind of solution you would be looking at, we're being completely non-prescriptive. It just needs to have an added value in terms of security. Don't hesitate, use this opportunity. The threshold for it is not necessarily that easy. It's certainly a challenge, but the challenge is equivalent to the positive impact you can have in this context. And there again, have a look at at what we are doing this year. There have been 3 topics for PCP this year, which could lead to projects starting next year. And should this be the case, then don't hesitate to contact those who managed to actually win PCPs and try to see if this could be an inspiration for you. Then you have here last slide on topics on the digital security part, which is managed by DG Connect. I will not go too much into detail of this because this is the competence of my colleagues and I don't want to say anything which would be counterproductive or even stupid. So then going to the last slides, the adoption was on the 27th of October. As I said before, everything is available on the participant portal. You have as well policy pages, links, and so on. And in each of the topics, you can see that there can be additional information as well. Something which I would encourage you to have a look at, because sometimes in the work program we make references to framework conditions, but these might evolve, and we try always to update the topic, which is way easier to do on the participant portal than actually modifying the web program as such. So sometimes don't hesitate to have a look, as well when it comes to international cooperation, highlighting, for instance, the case that for one of the DRS topics next year on technologies, we have the participation of Japan and Korea, in the sense that Japanese and Korean partners will be financed by their respective ministries of research, which is really a strong novelty for us. It's the first time we have such a cooperation with Japan and Korea. So don't hesitate, have a good look at this. There will be links, for instance, referring you to the relevant ministries and how this will work and so on. So all of these are quite exciting possibilities for you to have even a greater impact. And then among the last slides, voila, the focus area, boosting the effectiveness of the security union. Now there are 4 focus areas in the 1820 web program, and one of them is specifically on security, on the security union. There you will see those are virtual calls, so that means that everybody keeps their money, but that we try basically to bring together all the colleagues who work in Horizon 2020 on security-related things. You will see space, you will see ICT, health, energy, and as well our colleagues from the SSH department. And anything that's related to security research has been flagged, basically. Anything related to the security union. There as well, it's a nice opportunity for you to have a greater impact, to see basically, think outside the box, go into new areas where we could have an impact in security research. And that as well is a bit of a test bed for FP9. So don't hesitate to get active in this context as well. There will be booklets on this. Booklets are already downloadable, if I'm not mistaken. They have not yet been printed out, I think. But there's a lot of material there as well, and there are dedicated web pages prepared by colleagues from DGRTD. And again, that could be a very nice opportunity for you. Here is just what are the rough information on the focus area as such. And that's a little bit the policy explanation behind it. And voila, and here you have at the end all the links relevant to access our web program and as well the focus area. Voila, I hope I didn't speak too fast for you. And it's a bit of a bad habit, but I only had 20 minutes and a relatively large number of data. So voila, Philippe will forward you the presentation. If you have further questions, don't hesitate. And voila, and then afterwards I leave the floor to the SEREN 3 colleagues, which are your first contact points. So voila, first start bothering them and then they come and bother us. Voila, thank you very much.
Yeah, so we will have now the SEREN 3 presentation by Marina. Well, we will have a question and answer session just after this presentation. So if we have a question about the work program later, just after this presentation.
So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you everybody for staying after lunch. This is a short presentation on the tool that for the national contact points in security we have put to the service of all the participants. Is an action funded under a project of Horizon 2020 of our program of security program that is going to finish by the end of April 2018, and the idea is led by APRE, which is the Agenzia per la Promozione della Ricerca Europea in Italy. And we are a number of national contact points from different countries, not from all the member states, but most of them. And we have also the collaboration, international collaboration of South Africa as well. Among the different tasks that we have and the objectives, one of the objectives is to support all the participants in Horizon 2020 Security Societal Challenge, private, public, end users, wherever that wants or aims to participate into the program, in the different parts of the program, and is also a tool for learning each other, the national contact points from one country to another, in order to improve our skills in giving you support for this part of Horizon 2020. Also, we facilitate is a network for doing networking, for connecting people among the different member states in order to improve the consortium building and improve the contacts among you. We have different activities. We are running different activities. One that maybe you can quickly find is the CEREMA Partner Search Tool, which is a tool which is in our website. Is a database of people that is showing capabilities, but also people that is offering the possibility of participating in project ideas, and is really active. Is something which is regularly checked by the corresponding national contact points. So it's not something that you send your profile and is published there, but there is somebody behind that is checking the quality and the interest of the profiles that you can find there. Another important activity that we organize are brokerage events. Brokerage events, not only the official ones with commission like the Info Days, but one of them we think that most important event with is the SMICS, the networking event, the informal networking event that organized for the Security Societal Challenge. This year, as last year, in a very good cooperation, is CERN3 with the EARTO, which is around here. My colleagues are there. So other ones that are the suspects that we organize in the SMICS conference. With the support, we have to thank a lot of the Commission and the agency, the Research Executive Agency, that provides sometimes speakers and stakeholders to come and to see around, but also other participants as ASD, also EOS, and the former, let's say, people that was already behind this activity. This year, the data for the event is the Thursday 1st and Friday 2nd February. At the UALB, so it's at the Metro Alma here in Brussels. It's a very low-cost event, but very efficient as well. And people, it is a good place to come and to show up and to show your ideas, but also to exchange cards. So I think that is one of the most, let's say, events that you can find in the different societal challenges if you are looking at other thematics as well. This year, I think the website is going to be launched, or is about to be launched. Is already everything in place in order that you can register. We appreciate that you do it as soon as possible, because we have also, there is a quality check on all the presentations and all the profiles that are updated in that website. So it is good in order that we can ensure the quality and the good organization of the event as well. Maybe it's possible that the university will give some speech as well this year. Yeah, that's so is the director of the university. So we have also the recognition of the university as one of the University of Brussels as one of the European events on security, which is really remarkable. Another thing that we organize is trainings among the stakeholders. For instance, we organized this year an event for better information for our end users in the pre-commercial procurement tool, because it's really a tool that we think that is part of the future of this program, but we understand also the difficulties that sometimes this tool can suppose for the end users. So we think that the better information that we give to them, the best participation we will have, and the most innovative and good projects we will have in this tool as well. There are other international activities that we are trying to strengthen. One is the collaboration with our South African partner as well, but also in light with the topics that we have this year in collaboration with Japan and Korea would be one of these activity. And last week I was in Chile, and the emergency bodies of this country, they are show the interest of participating in the topic on rescuing people in disaster catastrophes, because the question of the earthquakes as well. So if you want some detail about that, so we can provide it. They are aiming to join any consortium. About the CEREMA tool, basically you can go there, you can upload your profile, and also, as I have said, specific project ideas. And on the events that we organize, we have organized, well, this is the database. You see that there are almost more than 700 profiles from 36 countries, not only member states and associate countries, but also expression of interest from other international partners. We have organized last year the Info Day jointly with the Commission. We are going to do the same for the Call 2018 along March, possibly. We are still on the negotiation on that. We have organized also the Info Day this year for the Calls 2017. And, well, we wait for your subscription. We have also, you can go to the website and you can look for specific projects in the future and in the past in order to have better knowledge on the security research sector, what it's about. And you have also the newsletter. And we send information that we think that can be interesting also for you, not only in events, but also in initiatives. And information that can be useful sometimes for when you are writing a proposal. And that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marina. Well, we are opening now the floor for some questions, comments that you might have. On the work program, well, Andrea is here. We can respond, and I can respond as well for any kind of questions. Maybe not too detailed because we have not so much time. And on Seren 3, well, Marina will be able to respond. So any questions that you might have? Everything is so clear. Yes.
Caterina Berbeni-Rim from ProMisat Service. Just a question of understanding. The top 3 in DSR, pre-normative research and demonstration, what is exactly meant? Are we talking of standardization? Are we talking of, I don't understand the wording normative in research.
Pre-normative research is every kind of research that is needed in the development of a standard. So pre-normative research typically is when a standard is not defined sufficiently, that you need some research to be done to better define the standards, and then it comes into a part where, in the jargon, then you would have a co-normative research, which is in a way validating a kind of different techniques, for example, or methods that have been developed. And then you are entering into another, I would say, sector which is not anymore research. So it's everything what is upstream to standard development. You're welcome. Yes?
Thank you. Just really a question about exploitation, given our earlier presentation. And are there any of the findings and any of the comments and thoughts that we've had today or previously, or that you're thinking about, going to be included in any of the calls going forward, the ones which are still under consideration?
Andrea, if you wish to respond, but I can respond already for one of the issue, which is on CBRN. Actually, the aspects of post-activity, activity post-projects regarding to marketing is related to PCP, but we have tested one while we have Clive Goodchild, which is just beside you, in the CBN area, where we have a clustering activity which is aimed to help SMEs developing research and innovation related tools to go to the market. It's an attempt that we are doing in the CBRN area. It's a new type of approach that we are developing, and we are aware that we need to do something clearly with respect to marketing possibilities. So I don't think that we have a specific action in the work program 2018-20 related to different fields. We have this in CBRN, but it's certainly something that we would be very interesting to hear from you, your experience, what you could maybe bring as ideas for FP9 discussions. Andrea, you want to add something? I will try to find another microphone.
Yes, I think Philippe has said everything that needs to be said. We're really exploring there, and this is where the contribution of all the different communities is really fundamental for us. We have acknowledged, I think, that there is a need for the security research activity to be funded through the EU. We've done a lot of projects have been done. Now it's the moment where already the first projects that were launched under FP7 are starting to produce results. And now is really the moment where we've got to decide, we've got to see how to best ensure that whatever comes out of the different projects is just not ending there, but something needs to be done after. What exactly needs to be done after, we need to understand with you, actually. Is it that we need to directly trigger the procurement agencies so that something is immediately acquired at member state level and then is delivered to the end users on the ground? Is there further space for further research to be done, or maybe it is what we have done is demonstrating that our leverage is not sufficient enough for it to then go directly onto the market, and so there is a further effort that is required on our side, and this is mainly what we're experimenting, because everything we're doing in this very high TRL, this close integration kind of projects or PCP kind of activities, it's really for the time being experimenting, but we're testing different possibilities. And in this respect, I've had a few conversations at lunchtime with some of you. It's really important for us to get a feedback on how the projects are really, what is the added value of what we've been doing, what has it implied in terms of impact on the real world. Is anything happening because of what we've been funding? If we don't get that kind of information, and it's only you that can provide us with that information, we will never understand how effective we actually are. And this is really fundamental for the designing of the future funding schemes that will be in place after Horizon 2020.
Thank you. More comments, more questions? Lawrence? You are very eager to sell your ideas. This is good.
And, can I just respond to that? And it's actually an approach we're using in a Horizon 2020 project on community policing. And it is complex, but I'll explain it quite simply. And you have at the moment what we call a current operating model. So you have a current way that you do it, current way that you do your requirement for exploitation, and that we as projects do our exploitation. And we would produce a visual of that current operating model. We'd deconstruct it and we'd break it down to see what it looks like in the details, in the process, in the tasks, in the people involved, and so on. And then we would challenge that. We would with the people involved in it, we would then understand what works and what doesn't work in that current model. And when we understand what works well, what the issues and challenges are, we would then seek to identify how we would innovate. So in governance, in policy terms, in process terms, in technology terms, to create a new model, and that target operating model. I'm doing this in Augmed, I'm doing it in Unity, Horizon 2020, and it works. We have evaluation to prove it works. And it's not a special approach to us. It's a very established approach for understanding a current operating model and a target operating model. But I just think this would be a perfect forum to run some facilitated workshops to really, you know, in a relatively closed environment, to really pull apart how you do it at the moment, see what works, see how you can improve it, and turn it into a model that can be included in policy documents going forward. And I'd be very happy to facilitate or scope it with you. So.
No, that's a very interesting suggestion. I would like to express a personal view about this that I heard at the last community of users about this difficulty of giving access to the market to the tools and technologies developed by research. And very often we are asked, what are you doing? Well, we are doing our job because we are identifying research topics. We are consulting people like you, we are discussing with the member states, we are putting in call for proposals research topics which are responding to research needs with a certain TRL. So we are doing our job in saying, okay, now you have developed the tools or technologies are TRL 6 or 7. That's it. And then there is a nice tool which is available, and then we are criticized maybe to not push this to the market. So the question that we have to pose really clearly is, upstream to this kind, even at research programming level, what are the degree of involvement and willingness of the industry and of member states to take over tools and technologies that will be developed under EU-funded research? So in discussing about possible instruments, we have to think whether we should not have a kind of agreement whether if EU-funded research arrives to a certain TRL level, then there is a relay being taken by some motivated member states or industry to continue this job. But it's not the role of the Commission already. I have 2 boys of 17 and 19. I am educating them, I am paying their studies and so on. I hope that when they will be 25, or if they are maybe a little bit lazy, 30, they will get out from home and they will sustain themselves. So it's a little bit what the Commission is doing with the research. So I think we have to reflect about this also in the light of the FP9 discussions, because we have to create partnerships, very clear partnership with the member states and the industry, involving the practitioners, because practitioners have to send us our feedback. This community has been developed in this spirit, and this kind of discussion would never have happened 5 years ago. So it's already an improvement. So now we have to concretize these ideas and to say, okay, what can we do to make a difference in FP9? And your ideas, your practical ideas will be very, very useful in this respect. You have a reaction, Jenny.
Sorry, I was just going to take your analogy a little bit further. Because when you educate your 2 sons and they go to university, then to get their job or their career and to be self-sufficient, they have to send their CVs to lots of companies who may or may not want them to work there. And a lot of times you don't get that job because you don't have the experience necessary. So to take that back to the point in question, I think something like 10T or something in that area where the results, sort of a mini feasibility type projects are funded. So, for example, in the OrgMed project, we have an external interested party who saw a demonstration, and they want us to build the model for them and to map their airport and to basically supply them with a tool. But the tool will only be TRL 7-ish when we finish. So we will take it upon ourselves to do that, but to take it to a complete sort of market penetration is quite difficult. But so what would be nice would be to have mini projects funded so that, for example, Frankfurt Airport can get their tool cheaply and we can customize it for them and build it, and then we have something that's ineffectively been sold to an external, nothing to do with the project, not a project partner. It'll be sold and used, and then that is a marketing tool to help to sell to other companies. But so perhaps something like the 10T kind of thing could work, but I know it's another funding mechanism, it may not be sensible. Or, as you said, some way in getting sort of larger communities or communities of users or groups to say that they will take these projects on and support them would be very useful.
Thank you. Very useful comments. Well, yeah. Oh, well.
A couple of points to this discussion, again, from the customer's perspective, and I don't want to dominate a bit of the discussions, but we have some good examples where, let's say, research projects funded under the FP7 or current on Horizon 2020, they really went from a proposal to a product, so that outcomes are really commercialized. We had a project related to radiation and nuclear detection, a mobile van, where end users are involved as customs administrations, and that's extremely important because they can, in the beginning, they are very much involved in giving the technical specifications, the EU requirements, then it goes to the researchers, to the developers, to the industry, they develop a prototype, and after that it goes back to them. It has been tested first in the field and then it pushes out to the border and it will be tested there. If that works, that creates already a sort of a trust amongst potential markets, and then people are more willing eventually to purchase equipment. We have another project which was done, which was funded under FP7, which is ended now in the mid of this year, related to automated image interpretation and algorithms to detect contraband in containerized traffic. There we had some customs administrations who were participating in the project, and they made a deal with the manufacturer. They're saying, listen, because the manufacturer, to develop the algorithms and to learn the system, how we should interpret that shape and image recognition, they need images of real seizures, so real stuff. So there were some customs administrations who made an agreement with manufacturers in the project and say, okay, we are going to give you access. We are going to provide you with real images, with real data, with real stuff in order to improve your system. At the end, when this is commercialized, we will get the module you developed, we will get it for free. And that has been done. That's been commercialized now. There are a couple of customs administrations who are working. The ones who had it for free are now used as a bit of a sort of a demonstration. So other administrations from all over the world, they go there to see it, and there is now a tendency to buy it. So that is a way how things can go. On take on how future research should be taken forward, I agree with what has been discussed here, that there is a lot of, and that's not only in the customs environment, it's much broader, there are pushed out a lot of developments, prototypes, but by the end of the project it stops. There is not foreseen how, because there is a gap between what has been developed as prototype, which can be commercialized. There's something in between, and I think there is a role and maneuver for the Commission, I think, in the future, to see how we can, maybe we can create a sort of a test bed or a playground facility where these prototypes can be further developed. Whatever community you are, are serving, and perhaps also that might be, I don't know whether my colleague of the JRCC was here, but I think she has left now. But I think also for the Joint Research Center, they might play a role in that in the future. But that's something where we need to think. But feedback from industry, research, academia, it's important for us to develop plans for the FP9.
Thank you, Will. This is a good illustration that when projects are really from the very start involving all the different stakeholders, including policymakers, industry, and so on, then it can work effectively. Because the issue is that many projects are forgetting a little bit that the key stakeholders, users, and maybe developers have to be involved from the very, very beginning, and very often it's too late when they're doing that. So the project is ending. Even if you have a good product, you cannot go forward to the marketplace. I come to you, André. He was first.
Hi, Tom Flynn, just from TSC. Just to make a point that I think maybe replicate what we said this morning. But when you're putting a project together and you bring researchers and you bring technicians from NGOs together, when it comes to exploitation, it's the industry partners who are expected to bring it forward. Now, often when the project comes to the end, what happens is that the researchers want to go back and do another research project. They're not interested because their job is to do more research. It's the industry players that need to bring it forward. So maintainability is the key issue. If you don't have a maintainability agreement in place, you try to bring it to the marketplace, the project won't go anywhere. That's critically important. A maintainability plan must be put in place. The second thing, which is critically important at the early stage, how are you going to bring it to the market? What's your business plan? What's your business model? So you need to understand the business model first. How do you know the business model? Well, you need to kind of go out to the end user you intend to get to. And until you speak with them and meet with, engage with them, there's no point in putting a business plan together until the business model is right. So one of the critical things that must be done at the early stage, when you're doing your communication, your dissemination, you do them with a light as you want to bring expectation. And every step along the way, dissemination, communication must lead and help exploitation. Okay, just a few points.
Well, André was first. I come to you. Even if you are a lady, you know, I have to respect the order.
André Pirlet, NCP for South Belgium. So I would be in the same line as Mr. Van Heeswijk, and I would propose to generalize the approach. It means, in a first stage, to have a database of needs from the end users, so we know what they are looking for. Second phase, deduct the needs for R&D, because it is related to the needs for end users, but you need to specifically deduct the needs for R&D. Then in a third phase, analyze the feasibility of the research. And in a fourth phase, analyze the marketability of products exploiting the research. I think that using such an approach would be very efficient.
Thank you, André. Yeah, please.
I'd just like to follow up the point that you made about researchers not being interested in continuing past the end of the project. I don't think that's necessarily always the case. I think sometimes researchers want to go back to basic research, but sometimes researchers are very interested in continuing and would really like to get more involved in this kind of crossover from more blue sky research into something that's exploitable. But that's very difficult for researchers to do because they need to bring the funding in. Usually they can't justify putting the effort in. They're not allowed to if there's no funding for it. So if there's some kind of follow-on funding for successful projects where researchers are able to continue engaging to bring it to a later stage, I think we'd be able to get a lot more engagement. I think that'd be a great opportunity, and I think it'd be really beneficial for actually reaching this kind of usable in the field stage.
Thank you. Yeah, there is a lot of people, so you will speak to this to Fiona at the coffee break. Hop, who was, yeah, please.
Since we are discussing tools for bringing research into the application field, one of the tools that the Commission has put at the table for doing this is the PCP. We have been involved in a few of them, but I would like to ask, although it's a bit early to make an assessment, what is the initial assessment of the Commission as regards to how this tool is functioning in delivering on its promise?
To respond? I'm not an expert in PCP, I confess.
I will try and provide an answer. And actually, I won't respond directly to you. I will. I promise I'm not trying to be evasive. But I would like to go a bit broader and hook into a number of statements that have just been made. So I heard about developing a database of end users, a database of requirements of the end users, and so on. I think this is correct, but this is key to what needs to be done, in the sense all the relevant entities need to be involved in this sort of co-creation process, where everyone, the key to success, the key to ensure that a PCP is actually, or whatever other initiative is at a certain point going to reach the market, is that, as Philippe was saying, all the relevant entities are involved from the beginning. This is fundamental because everyone needs to feel ownership of whatever activity is being conducted. This means that the procurers or the budget planners need, if there is something that is launched now, they need to put in their annual budget planning 4 or 5 years from now a line that is ready to take up what will be coming out in terms of possible procurement that will need to be done and so on. And what is fundamental is the role of the different players that cannot only be limited to one particular phase. So researchers, it's not possible that a community that has been put together to develop something, then the minute the project comes to an end and there's no more funding from the EU, everything is simply disbanded and there's no website anymore active because no one has the 20 euro that is required to pay for the annual fee of the website to be maintained. I mean, this honestly demonstrate that there is no real interest to continue. So there must be something put in place that guarantees that everyone continues to be involved as far as possible. And this implies even without EU funds necessarily being there to cover everything. And this can only relate to an initial commitment towards the initiative that theoretically the activity would have taken place even without EU funding, or with EU funding not being reimbursing 100% of the overall cost, but only 50% or whatever, because if there's real commitment, it means that something is really needed, and okay, the Commission funds are welcome, but if it's something really needed, it would have to come up. And in this respect also to the role of industry or the private sector, that is fundamental. The private sector, the companies, are those that can, when there is an initial capability requirement, meaning a function to be performed by the end users is identified, then that function is transformed into a possible tool that is required to perform that certain function. Then the private sector has to come in that moment to say, okay, if we're speaking about that tool, what technologies are implied by that specific tool? And do the technologies exist, or do we have a technological gap? This is where private sector has to come in from day one in order to contribute to this analysis. And also from the private sector, I think I've heard a lot of times private sector coming to me saying, hey, but you're only reimbursing 90% or 70%. For us, you know, we've got to respond to our stakeholders, to our shareholders, actually, not the stakeholders, and we've got to demonstrate profit. And if we don't, if you cover only 70% of our cost, how can we make a profit? We've got to move away from this. When we're speaking about research, it's an investment also for the private sector. I mean, of course, European funds more than welcome, but the profit comes only at a later stage when there is really procurement and so on. And so that's why it's important to really make a business case as early as possible, involving all the people that will be involved in the decision that comes after in terms of real procurement that needs to be made. And it doesn't have to be, it's not the research project that is the profitable part of the activity. Coming to the PCPs, experience is very limited now because we've only got, actually formally, we don't have any PCPs at all until now, since the first PCPs formally will be launched only in 2018. So until now, we had only sort of precursors of PCPs. Of course, they were very similar in nature to what a real PCP is now. Only some of them are starting to produce results. The results that we're having are quite interesting. We have concrete cases of activities that have gone through the entire cycle and now have led into a product that has been effectively acquired by end users. We've got a project, just to name names, which is CloseEye, and has led now to a program, a procurement program by Guardia Civil in Spain. So it's gone all the way through. Is it a major success? For a certain point of view, yes, because it's demonstrating that it can work. On the other side, it's not turned into a broad European acquisition program, and that is what we all would like to expect, but it's still, the results have been then taken up into a number of limited markets or from a limited amount of buyers, and we would like that to be a bit further expanded, and we've got to see how. We don't yet fully know how success, since there is a very limited number of instances that we can analyze. It's not clear yet if the successes are due to the process itself or to very good-willing individuals within the different ministries and so on that saw a concrete possibility and followed it, but is it really individual-driven, or is it because the structured process is starting to demonstrate its added value? This we will need to further explore with the future activities.
The success of the process may be due to the goodwill and the effort of the participant parties, but the success of the instrument depends on the market take-up actions. And if this activity, which is funded, cannot guarantee the transition from a research to the market, I don't think that anything else can do it. Sure, but here you have a process which is funded and is controlled, and if it fails to produce opportunities for the industry for transitioning research into products, nothing else can succeed, all right? Nothing else that is unfunded, just, right? Okay.
Thank you. There were other questions? Yeah. Did I miss someone? I don't. No, you don't. Yeah, you are very motivated.
Thank you. So it's just a point, Andrea, about the commercial private sector willingness to invest. We, and I probably speak to my colleague next to me from BAE, we have no issue with investing and trying to identify and work through how one might make a commercial profit at the end. That's what we do all the time. But I also think where there are end users and government agencies who are involved in the process, in the project from day one, I do think there's an emphasis, and there should be an emphasis on them and how they go about understanding the procurement effect and the value and benefit of how their future procurements might be shaped by the research which their organizations are involved in and being funded to participate. So, you know, sort of a public organization, I won't say shouldn't or can't be allowed to, but if they're taking public funded money to do research, then there should be an onus and an emphasis on those to actually understand how they integrate it into their procurement and into their future planning process. So maybe that's one area that goodwill could actually be turned into actually procurement common sense and horizon scanning, future proofing, call it what you want.
Sorry, Wolfgang, you are just in front of the camera because there are live streaming people. We just saw your face in like a big zoom. Well, it's so any other comment, and then we will move forward. Please, Christian.
Well, I have personally got quite a few experiences with results from projects being taken up and being exploited, and people doing business afterwards. For instance, I just heard yesterday that, for instance, the project which Philippe was a project officer of Safe Water, the water utilities went to see the partners and said, we want to kind of see how we can kind of get your technologies. I think there are two things which are important. The first thing is you have to start the incubation process of the exploitation vehicle during the project really, really early. So for instance, we have a project called, so we are supporting a project called Target. We're now looking at a setup of a, let's say, startup to commercialize a result because there is no natural partner to lead that. And that's very much a question not only of organizations, also a question of individuals taking the lead. So you have to kind of help individuals because very often these things, even in large organizations, happen, I wouldn't say in spite of the organization, but not necessarily with the help of the organization because it's new stuff and new stuff is not necessarily easy to sell. And the second important thing, and that's a recurrent experience from my very first security research project, which I also did with Philippe, which was KTOR. is I think there are two parts of incubating the exploitation. One is on the industry side, but the other thing is on the practitioner member state side. We had a really great result, for instance, the Cato project. We came up with something really practical, and at the end of the day, we try to kind of get some traction on the member state side to say, let's agree on something because this could be a practical step forward. And it turned out to be a very, very difficult mission. Now, I'm not saying that this is the fault of anybody, but I think if you want to kind of incubate that, you do not only have to incubate the setup. Sometimes there is one partner who is the natural exploiter of all the results. If he's not, you have to design him during the project. And you have to incubate the governance structure and again make it happen involving the member states and the European Commission itself, maybe sometime European agencies and so on. That's very difficult, and I think today it's not always kind of organized to make that happen, because if you're working with DG Home, it's still relatively easy, but for instance, if you do it with RIA, I can tell you it's very, very difficult because the logic is kind of different. I think, again, there is a learning process, but I think there is still a huge gap in terms of what could be done and should be done.
Thank you. Could we... Is it a burning question? Yeah, no. We have to go on with the program because there are people looking at us in live streaming and they have seen, yes, at 4 o'clock it's Philippe Covillé speaking, so I should not be seen more. Yes.
So I think I would say a last sentence coming from the international marketing myself. I think we all need to understand our strengths and our weaknesses. And if you go in the global players, they have the R&D departments, they do research, even in the industry. And then when a product or a result becomes a prototype, it goes into another department. This should teach us that it is very important to keep a difference between those who have the mandate to do research and development and those who then take up the pre-competitive research and then go into the market and they give it to those who are doing only that, because they are three methodological approaches that I think we have also a lot of results, is not even in the DNA of a researcher to go and sell their own products, right, or their own methodologies, just to give it as an input.
Thank you very much. Well, what we can understand from all these discussions is that we have still a lot of things to learn about procurement, and we need to discuss and to build up with experiences, as Andrea mentioned, that we are learning by doing. And it's certainly something that we will be pursuing in the context of the community of users and some projects. And I will invite you certainly to react to what I will present now on the program for next year, because there will be some room for discussions about procurement, and your feedback, your ideas will be much welcome to us for formulating FP9 orientations, because we really need to crack this nut, which is quite complex to do, and we are all in a learning process at this stage. So I will maybe go on with the last presentation. And I will, I'm sorry if I repeat a little bit the salad that you are used to hear very often when you are participating in community of users. What I will do today is to really bring you into the different thematic days that we are proposing for next year, and also asking you to show your interest, not today, but in writing. You will get a mail from me on where you would like to be positioned, if you wish to be positioned in different thematic days. What we did now is that we have identified some topics, and we have done our job internally to say who are the policy DGs, who are the agencies, who are the different services that are willing to take the lead or to be associated. So it's what you will see reflecting in my presentation. We still did not open the ideas to projects, different initiatives. And this is what will be done by email from next week onward. We need to have all the key projects with us in this the discussion development next year. So what I will certainly repeat, but just very quickly, is to recall the framework of our program. That is, we have to face many. You remember this big crazy mosquito, you know, Chernobyl mosquito with a lot of wings. Well, it's in a way reflecting all the different areas that we are tackling in the Secure Society program, and where we have also common ground, which are operational management features and links with different key actors: research, policy, industry, practitioners, citizens. It was the starting point of the discussions on the community of users development, is to really bring the different actors together and see whether there are commonalities between different sectors and see how we could work and share experience all together. And this is something that I did on a Sunday afternoon for my kids, because they say, well, what are you doing? I don't understand. So I said, okay, well, look, it's like we are in a tree, you know, we are in a tree which has a kind of a big umbrella, which are international policies and EU policies. You know, here you have, for example, the Seveso, the UNESCO Convention on Transboundary Chemical Accidents. You have the UNISDR, International Strategy for Disaster Reduction, which is linked with the EU Civil Protection Mechanism, the Natural Hazards Environment, Health Policy, CBRN, EU Security Union, Border Control, all these policies which are actually giving a framework for our actions at EU level, national and regional. And then you have all the routes here where you are all situated, because without this route, the tree is not functioning. So even the cities and practitioner citizens are there, industry, the community, ministries, militaries, all these first responders and so on. And around here, you have research, development, demonstration, capacity building activities that are actually bringing some knowledge and practical information to make this tree live. But it means that all the leaves, all the roots here are interlinked. We cannot afford to work in isolation. We have to work all together, and even a man or woman in the street is belonging to this tree. So we have to be able to explain what I had to do to my kids, very simply what we are doing at all levels, from industry, from practitioners, from research, from policy-making viewpoint, which is not easy. So, well, what I would like to say is that when we are developing communities, in a way, here we can speak about community of practice in one given area. Well, first of all, we need to ensure that we are mastering the different type of policies. My colleague Christophe Castex mentioned that when you are developing a proposal in a given area, if you are completely missing the policy framework, well, your proposal is dead by nature, because we are asking the evaluation to check that there is a link to the common our common framework, which is linked to policies. So here, well, I will not elaborate too much, but you have a lot of policies which are dealing with civil protection, environment, water, international cooperation, security, and so on. International organization as well, and convention. It needs to be known, because if you don't know for who you are working with respect to policy framework, well, your project will not be looked at very, very seriously. And then, well, there is also the aspects of bringing project together. We are in a situation where we are funding, we have a certain number of research programs in Horizon 2020. There are national research programs. We are funding research in given areas. And what we are realizing, even in our program, is that projects which are, for example, working on cybercrime, they are not necessarily all working together. So what we did in the last 2 years, we say, okay, now we will have workshops. One, for example, is happening on radicalization. In parallel, there will be one on cyber crime and security. You have to speak to each other. You need to, at least, we don't speak about IP sharing. We don't speak about disclosing confidential information. We speak about bringing people together to say, what are you doing? And what can we, well, maybe derive from what you are doing and share information so that we are not duplicating efforts. And sometimes have ideas to create critical mass. And it's a question of credibility. Well, I would say for you as a researcher and industry practitioners community to have this kind of vision of what is being carried out in a theme, but for the Commission as well, because we are funding projects, sometimes funded by different programs, and we may be in situation where we realize in arriving in meetings that we don't know about a project which is funded by another program. We simply do not have the capacity to do that. So Andreas this morning mentioned about the mapping exercise. We have done one for FP7. We are now completing it for Horizon 2020 and for the ISF, you know, the internal security funds. For the 3 years, the first 3 years of Horizon 2020, 2014, 15, 16. It will be released very soon. Here we have established, like the branches of the tree, categories of different activities where we are listing the different projects funded from different programs. And next year we will use this mapping to bring the different projects together and say, okay, now what can you exchange as experience? What can you discuss in terms of substance? We don't want to have symposium-like. This morning was very interesting, but this can happen in any kind of conferences, presentation of project. We want to have something which is more going to, I would say, to the heart of the discussion. So panels which bring projects together on given questions, bringing science to policymakers, science to industry, science to practitioners, and having this kind of state of play every year, once a year, in different areas. So here, we need to have a knowledge of these leading projects. We need to maybe have a joint communication. Well, if you have, for example, 10 projects in flood response, well, we should be able to say these 10 projects have this critical mass. They are gathering 200 organizations in Europe. And if you are coming from Greece, well, we can tell you immediately in these 10 projects, in these 200 organizations, you have 15 Greek organizations that are working in these different projects. If you want to know more, or if your minister who is not willing to read English text, well, he can call one of these academies or the organization that will respond to him in Greek, obviously. So we have also to mission people in projects to have this role, because it's too easy to be only partner of projects, while we may feel that you have a responsibility also towards your different countries. So we have also a need to identify who are the mediator, the interface, because I've been working in policy, science policy since many years. I know that science to policy dialogue is very, very difficult. And I know now that science policy, industry, practitioners dialogue is also complicated. So we need to have people who have a kind of horizontal view, holistic view, that are maybe not expert in a given area, but able to say, you are developing this kind of tools and technologies. It is responding exactly to this kind of policy, what they are requesting. It is fitting exactly to this. And the potential with respect to innovation and market is towards this sector, and you will meet this practitioner needs. So it's a very large umbrella, and then work with the different sectors to help that something, I would say, that the research output are recognized and usable. So this is also linked to the market dimension, obviously, and we have this community of practice which should be strongly related to different type of users. And well, this in a way is linked to this large umbrella. The community of users that we are all together developing is already establishing links with different research programs, different think tanks, and different policies. You regularly, you see people, well, for example, people from different DGs, different agencies who are coming, different UN organizations, services that are coming to this place. So we are very close to establish this type of practice. So I give the example of CBRN. So we have the users, and in terms of community of practice, CBRN means that we need to look at different type of threats. It's not only, well, it can be man-made, disaster, intentional, well, terrorist threats. It can be the accidents, typically Seveso 3 type accident. It can be health threats. It can be discussions related to standardization, linked to regional platforms and national platforms. So all these community of practices are actually developing in the framework of projects, or they are very often fragmented. They are not often brought together. We can bringing together, and it's what we are doing now in the CBRN area through the Encircle projects and e-notice. Well, I will not elaborate too much about this, but we are this willingness to bring this sector together. So we have the community of users, and the community of users actually is already establishing links with all these policy sectors. So we see, you see here, well, security, civil protection, international cooperation, customs, transport, health, environment, and all the intergovernmental agencies, the EDA, European defense sectors, external security, Europol, Frontex, and different UN conventions. Quite complicated because here there are a lot of stream of actions which are difficult to tackle, but we have to map them and we have to say, well, it's what they are doing and what can we do to help them. And we have all these projects which are actually developing through different programs. And here, for example, the Secure Society program, but also RTD Connect projects funded by EDA, capacity building projects funded by ECHO, ISF, the CBRN Center of Excellence, Integrate project as well, and Life Plus related to, for example, accidents, Seveso. So all of these projects here are being funded, are being running, and are not working together. We are losing an extraordinary momentum, an extraordinary strength with respect to critical mass building by not bringing this project together. So it will be what will be the core work of the 2018 community of users. So, well, obviously we will also be asking some organizations, think tanks, international association, and obviously the GRC to be in the core of this mediating role. We have all to work together. So there is quite a lot of planning to do, and it's what I will like to present you now. Contrary to what we have done this year, where we have given the word to projects, it was good to see that projects were willing to discuss with other projects. So it was what we tested this year, having thematic discussions, bringing 5 to 10 projects together and having discussions with all of them. It brought a lot of discussions, very interesting discussions, and a lot of synergy building, because after this meeting, projects naturally met and started to change. It's what we want. We don't want that there is a fragmented approach in this respect. So we would like to have a kind of panel, not presentation, not project presentation. We like project to be present in the COU, but in a way that they can discuss specifically the project. So we'll have stands, we'll have possibilities of organizing demonstration. If projects want to have a side event, we can organize that for them, but the plenary sessions will not have project presentation. There will be more roundtable, for example, gathering different key projects around different questions related to the themes being discussed. Policy to policy, so we would like to have different policy sectors also telling us what they are doing and say, okay, how they are interconnected. Typically, for example, the transboundary international, well, I don't know exactly the TEA, I don't remember the acronym for UNESA, which is related to transboundary chemical accidents. The Seveso 3, how they interact with UNHCR and the Union Civil Protection Mechanism. How does it work? Because they are all working in a different umbrella, and very often it's difficult for us, to understand exactly how they are interconnected. So we would like them to be discussing this. We would like the aspects of policy to research innovation, and well, Laurence will be happy about this because it's really about, well, market access. What can we do to push this? And then interaction with practitioners. typically where the practitioners can be involved, how in a better way. Please voice your comments and so on the results, on the way research is being programmed. So it's really a platform of exchange that is being developed in this respect. So entering into the stake of the discussion, the 10th meeting will be covering 6 themes, and you see here that we start by a high-level event, and here we will have to have a high political, I would say, discussion. Typically, we would hope that at this level there will be a commissioner, director general, and high-level stakeholders being part of the discussion to discuss key questions that will be, I would say, related to the different themes. We will try to do that. Well, again, it's a try. We are learning by doing. It's a proposal, so we'll see how it works. But in this respect here, we will try to get high-level people. And then you have themes which are actually being discussed in this place, one in plenary, one in one of the rooms downstairs, and there is another room which will be dedicated, along with another room, to stand for projects and interactions. And again, if there are needs expressed by projects to have a separate discussion, we find a room somewhere else, and we arrange that a project meets with different people. So for the theme 1, chemical accidents, what I wanted to show you is that the lead will be taken by DG Environment. So it was important for us at DG Home level to show that it's not our community of users. It's your community of users. We are developing this with many stakeholders and many policy sectors. So for chemical accidents, the Seveso 3 directive responsible, will be leading the project, the thematic days, and it will be associated with GRC, EPTIS, UNECE, and so on. I will not enter into details, but what I will do is that I will send you this program, and if you are willing to be part of one of the thematic discussions, either from a project side or as industry representative or practitioners representative or even citizens representative, please let us know. And we will already set actually key people participating in the discussion. There will be one on water safety and security, and this will be led by our program because, well, it's a little bit delicate. It's a gray zone, you know, water safety and security. Nobody wants really to chair that, so I will take this on my shoulder because I've been in my former life a water policy, so I'm bringing these two people together. It's very delicate. You know, the policies are completely different and they need to be brought together. Well, Olivier Lobel is here from Euro. I will certainly involve Euro. I will involve other people like the water safety, water sanitation and safety technical platform, the NCIP and so on. The theme 3 on health is already, it will be led by DG Research, the health research program, and DG Santé. So DG Santé is already willing to co-chair, and they have even said that their 2 Director General will be there. So it shows that the level of the visibility of the discussions is rising constantly. So this will be also quite a program that will be completely chaired by other DGs. Citizen awareness, I say, well, to be led by DG Home before our program, because for the time being, I don't know exactly which, I would say, entities will be leading the discussion. And it's a question that I will pose to you. If you have any tips to be given, or if you have any ideas, willingness to help, well, it's a theme where I don't know, you know. I'm not really feeling at ease. We had discussion on citizen awareness. We have the DRS1 topic, which is responding to what we have been discussing in the CRU. This is reflected in the program, but I don't know who will be willing to come. So you will be welcome to react. Then Cyberani, this is obviously our colleague from DG Home D2, which are responsible for the Cyberan action plan and the explosive action plan, and we'll be closely working with them, and as well as the Encircle projects, DigiTaxud, REMM, and SEP, and so on. And finally, the theme 6 will be about national community of users networking. We had a meeting in June, and we are trying to explore with member states who are willing to develop national community of users, how we could work with them to relay information from our EU community of users so that they are relaying the information to their practitioners, to the users, and possibly to get feedback from the practitioners to the EU level. So bringing you really ensuring that the member states understand that we have to create a very strong partnership with them. It will take time, but I can tell you that there are already 5 or 6 countries that said, yes, we are developing a national community of users. It will be discussed in March. There will be maybe 6 or 7 countries in 2018. There will be 15 in 2019, and in 2020, all of them will be working in the same dynamics, I hope. So, for the June 2018, you see that the core work is more related to civil protection. It will be related to disaster risk reduction, and the theme 7 will be led by DG ECO. And here, well, they have told me that Commissioner Stylianides might be present at the high-level event, and they will associate, obviously, DG Home, DG Research, DEFCO, and so on, and the Disaster Risk Management Knowledge Center, and UNISDR. We'll have one theme on communication and interoperability. Well, here also, I know that there are some projects, well, EPISEC, there are at least there are 3 or 4 projects which I know are working in this field, but from the, I would say, internal link, I could not identify really who could take the lead. Maybe DG Connect, but there was no reaction. So, well, projects might take the lead in this respect, and you are free to react. Weather extremes, well, here, again, well, we will take the lead because other DG says, yes, we want to be associated. DG Climate Action, for example, DG Environment regarding flood and drought, they said, yes, we will be coming, but we don't want to take the lead. Since we have big projects, which, for example, one it's called Anywhere, who are managed by REA, we will involve these projects to help us in bringing these discussions about weather extremes. It will be the same for geological disaster, which will be led by DG Research. And about resilient cities, again, well, the lead, I don't know. I would like to involve Cities Network. I would like to have a discussion with DG Regio, with some other entities, Covenant of Mayors, and so on. But it's, again, an exploration that needs to be done. We'll have a theme, and I don't know yet who will be coming. The theme 12, critical infrastructure. This, again, will be led by DG Home D2, because, well, it's related to the CIP directive, and there will be an association with DG NR and SIP, and again, a lot of projects which will be certainly interested by this topic. And the last, well, the last one of the year, which will be the 12th meeting in November 2018, then we will have actually more security aspects being discussed. Well, standardization is a little bit horizontal. Why do we put standardization governance? It's because we are faced with a difficulty where a lot of projects are running, for example, pre-or normative research. Some projects are producing what they call standardization products. They say, well, we'll develop a CEN workshop agreement without informing us, without informing the CEN. And we have a mandate given to CEN. We have pre-normative research being carried out by the GRC and so on. It's very, very fragmented. And we don't have actually a mechanism, a coordination mechanism, which is very, very clear. We want to have something. We will not step on others' feet in a way. But from the Commission side, we need to ensure that the route is well paved with respect to standardization. That when we are research being needed and identified, we take our responsibility. We have research programming undertaken. When there is something mature, we take the responsibility to go to CEN directly and to have a mandate to CEN. Or we have other type of activities, can be co-normative research, validation of tools, and so on. But we have to ensure that we are not leading duplication of efforts and that we have a coherence in our system. And this is very, very strongly related to policy. So it's where we as Commission, will play a role of facilitating, but also in a way of governing. So in a way, CEN will be very, very strongly involved in this, but DG GROW as well and GRC, and we will develop this during the year and discuss that on the 20th of November. We'll have, we'll have one workshop on cybersecurity and crime, similarly to what will happen tomorrow. So this will be mainly DG Home associated with DG Connect and GRC. One on border security. Well, this will be with association of Frontex, Digitax, GRC, and so on. One on radicalization, the same format as is happening today. Then fight against crime and terrorism, which is a little bit broader. You know, there are some overlapping. And again, these are proposals. You know, we will certainly refine our program in 2019 based on this experience. So it was put on the paper with different suggestions. And external security, where we would like clearly DG DEFCO to be working with us and the external security agency. So this is the menu of 2018. Well, it's open to any kind of discussion because it's not graved in marble, obviously. What we will like, why are we putting the same format for next year? It's to avoid, first of all, is to avoid dispersion. You know, we have seen that when we have many projects, for example, presenting their results, we don't have a red line being established. So we prefer to have specific discussion with projects, but to have a better structured discussion for the different themes. And in a way, it will allow us to have a kind of state of play in the year of the main projects, capacity building, Horizon 2020, policy updates, the market aspects and practitioners' needs, put in the form of a position paper for each theme, with all the contacts, with all the, I would say, all the references that will be given to you if you need to have more insight into what is being done. And then, well, we say, okay, we have discussed this, for example, weather extremes. We had one-day discussion. Well, you know what you do now. Well, you are adult and vaccinated. Well, we have told you that you could work together. Do it, and we can help. We can facilitate. As a Commission, we are facilitating the work. And in 2018, 19, we'll see what you have done. We make another update and see whether we can make progress and bring people together. And ultimately, we'll see, for example, tomorrow, it's what I will do. I will discuss with Interreg projects to see what is happening at regional level. We will start to crystallize activities with other type of funding instruments, not only EU. We'll look at what is going on at regional level and possibly with national program. And if we do that, then we are really building something very strong and very coherent in terms of critical mass. Very ambitious. It's a new paradigm. It's a new way of working in which every one of us has to feel to belong to the same community. So it's not something that the Commission tells you to do. It's something that the Commission offers you to facilitate. So take it, and I hope it will work. So, well, any kind of question I can respond, we can continue. Otherwise, well, what I will do is that I will send you this presentation next week, well, to the overall community of users network, and calling for expression of interest. And while there are something like 1,650 members now in the community of users, and it's growing every week. So it shows that it is really, so I think at a certain point, as Andrea said, you cannot do that alone anymore. Thank you very much. So, any questions? And then, you know that tomorrow, well, there will be still technical workshops. I just have an information from the organizers that we have to leave this room at 5:30 because 5:30 because they have another event. So, any question, Olivier? Yeah, if you maybe can use this microphone.
Thank you. It's not so much a question, but a statement. I fully support the approach that you have just outlined. It responds to some worries we had expressed in the past, so that there's a certain gap between research and the real needs of applicators, of problem owners, as we are called. So I'm representing the water sector on the ground, and this event will certainly narrow down the gap and bring together different actors. I would recommend that in the section or the session on water security or safety and security, we also involve the standardizers. I think it would be important because we have a standard on water safety plans, on risk management and crisis management. So having these people on board, I think, is very important. Yeah, and I think bringing all these groups together will be more effective than a proposal which was made earlier today, drawing up a database of research needs. I think in the water sector this will not work. There are so many differences between larger and smaller suppliers, between different regions and their specific needs. Between more advanced and less advanced countries, I think it won't work. We will need the direct contact between the research community and the applicators. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was naively thinking some 5 years ago that we would have, it would be better to break the walls between the different sectors and so on, and to all work together. But now I know that it cannot work. In fact, we are human. We tend all to work in boxes, and so we should not try to break the boxes, but we should ensure that among the boxes there are very strong bridges, and we need to work on these bridges. So not try to reinvent the wheel. We have all our way of working. All our specificities. What we need to ensure is that we have very, very strong connection, which are working in the different direction. So this is a kind of challenge, but it starts to work. So thank you very much for your comment. Another, yeah, Horst. Oh, thank you very much, Andrea.
Yeah, Horst Kremers, Kodada, Germany. I also don't want to add anything of this fantastic program you laid out. Just as a remark, I'm very happy that I think to the first time it's visible that there is a real special aspect on things that could be called infrastructure. Like these topics of communication, of interoperability, of standardization, and so on. What in my mind would be missing would be the legal aspects, and maybe some others that also would kind of could be put in that infrastructure level of the project work. Because then, for a lot of other people, it would be visible that we want to have a multi-value layer established, and this also. And then I come about the boxes in the water field or not. Finally, what we do here is not just we have a standard and what so on, or we have a standard or not. In some of the fields, I even have the expectation, maybe a long time to go until there could be some directives helping us, not us, but especially the administrations, a lot of administrations, this plentiful number of administrations in there that have to do these things across Europe in a way that is a little bit unique, and we know that from other directives. You have a directive and then it doesn't work automatically in a homogeneous way. Even that would lead to many years of standardization. But this then would help, and in the end, we should be looking at something that is homogeneous in Europe, although I know a long way to go.
No, it's a very important remark, and well, it's a remark that Andrea also mentioned me some days ago about the need to have a very strong governance for this community of users. And the difficulty is that I had an experience in working at DG Environment in the Water Framework Directive aspects. And we have a common implementation strategy, which is working with different stakeholders. And it's working very well with different working groups, with member states, working with the Commission, a strategy coordination group, an expert group working on different themes, for example, flood, water quality, groundwater, climate and water, and so on. The issue here is that, legally speaking, there is one directive, one umbrella directive linked to different operational directives, wastewater, bathing water, whatever, and so on. But it's the same DG, the same umbrella directive, and the member states implementing a law at river basin district level, which is an authority well identified. Imagine at our level, security, civil protection, which is well, very, very close to sovereignty aspects. We are not playing in the same situation. So we can indeed develop. I would like to stress as well that this common implementation strategy is purely voluntary. It's informal, and it works because it's informal. Because it will be, for example, a directive. Member states will not accept this. So it's informal. It's a 3-year program. So here we may indeed arrive to a situation that we will have an informal platform of exchange, but it's not anymore one DG, one ministry. It's several ministries, several DGs, several policies, agencies, and so on, and many different kind of sectors that we need actually to bring together. I think it's possible, but it will need time and a lot of discussions, a lot of willingness to share, a lot of, I would say, curiosity for the other sectors. Just say, okay, why should I not speak to this guy? You know, I never spoke to him. Just bridging things. So it's really an opening. It's why I say it's a new way of working, because it's very easy to work in a box, because you are not in danger in the box. You are just here and you do your job. As soon as you get out of your box and that you try to see what the others are doing, you are putting yourself in danger because you are out of your comfort zone. So people do not do that. So we should try to get people a little bit out of their comfort zone and say, okay, we don't want you to be in danger, but we want you to be helped by facilitators to work together. So it's why I'm insisting on the role of new mediating role at all levels. So there are mediators, translators, I don't know how we can call them, who should have these capacities of bringing people together. And then the specialists are doing their job. But it takes time, and it's a function which is not necessarily well recognized in a time where resources are very scarce, because it is part of a job. But when we will have understood that this capacity is essential to work together, then there will be a new profession, very clearly. Well, it exists already, because there are a lot of consultants that are doing that. Or in the UK, for example, we speak about the Water Framework Directive. There is a science evidence department. So the Anglo-Saxon in the US as well. They have a department, they have people to work for science, policy, industry interface. It should be something which should be clear in many different instances. More questions? More comments? Well, otherwise, thank you very much. And well, I will see you tomorrow. Tonight, unfortunately, there will be no evening, you know, so no music tonight. But it will be for March. I promise you.